I want to introduce Steve and Kerry to you. We're going to run a session on online communities. Online communities is one of my favourite topics at QuestionPro. We love them. We run a lot of them. We've got a lot of customers who love using us for running online communities. And I think a vibrant, engaging, authentic community is something that is becoming more and more important for brands, agencies, platforms, and the different partners that we work with. So I want to introduce two fantastic experts in this area. Steve McGee from OnePoll, Kerry Radden from Indigo Research. Guys, you want to introduce yourselves quickly?
Hi, I'm Steve. I'm panel manager for OnePoll. We're part of the 72-point group, and a lot of the research that we do is for their PR. So we have lots of opportunities to get research done. We do about 220,000 interviews a month from our OnePoll panel, apart from the international stuff we do through external panels as well. So a lot of stuff runs through the QuestionPro platform.
And we're at the other end of the spectrum. There's 7 of us. We work exclusively in the arts and culture sector. So we've really become a research agency growing out of being an audience-focused marketing agency in the arts and culture sector, and have developed a new kind of suite of products, really, and an ethos which is around collaborative research in the arts and culture sector. And out of that has grown what is far, far newer and quite a lot smaller, a kind of audience panel, which we use in multiple ways. We only have about 15,000 of them. We certainly don't do millions of interviews a month, but it's well used and is definitely in its growth phase at the moment.
Brilliant, thanks. We're going to kick off with topic 1, which is why are online communities or panels so important in our industry? Hands up everyone who has a WhatsApp group that they're part of, either as a parent or as a... yeah, exactly, thank you. So social media groups, brand forums, Discord groups, they're all communities in their own way. And obviously we're going to focus this session more on research and insight communities, but I think it's important that insight communities in general permeate our everyday lives. So Steve, we'll start with you. Tell us a little bit about the massive panel that you've built at OnePoll and how that kind of works and operates.
It's not really a massive panel. We do a lot of work through it, but it's a very engaged panel. And I think that's the key to panel management, to managing communities, engaging with them. So it's say what you do what you say, and make sure that you've got your community, your panel, along there with you. So we do a lot of research with our panel. We send them out regular annual surveys, quarterly surveys, ask them things about what they like about a panel, what they don't like, and then we react to that. So it's making sure they're engaged. This means that they will do more surveys for us and that they will stay longer. So that's how we deal with it. We recruit from a number of different sources, and we make sure we're nationally represented as much as we possibly can be. A lot of the surveys that we do are 2,000 nat rep, and we turn those around in a couple of days. So we're doing 100, 150 surveys like that a month amongst our panel. So it's keeping them engaged, making sure they're focused on what they're doing, and responding to any issues that they have.
Brilliant. Kerry, you said yourself you come from the other end of the spectrum here. So tell us a little bit about how you're building community engagement at Indigo, and how do you engender that kind of trust and loyalty from a group?
Yeah, so we have a kind of an ecology, really, an Indigo share ecology. So we started off by having a post-visit survey tool, essentially. So like lots of people here, kind of, it's customer experience measures. And we work with lots and lots of different arts and culture organisations across the UK. And we had a sudden realisation that actually there are a lot of people, a lot of audience members who are taking part in these surveys who actually wanted to engage more with the sector. And during COVID, our CEO, that we were a company of one at that stage, with our CEO, as you may remember, the entire arts and culture sector shut down. We were all furloughed overnight. And at that point, she realised that, similar actually to Duncan and Jim earlier, that actually what the sector needed was to understand audience sentiment, to understand when people were ready to come back into theatres, you know, did they want social distancing? And so she set up a very collaborative research framework where people could take part, again, self-funded, for free. We had over 500 organisations, 500,000 responses from audiences, and there were multiple waves of these surveys through COVID. And that sort of liberated this idea of collaborative research in the sector. So we've taken those ideas forwards, and we realised that with these post-visit surveys that we were then doing since COVID, as well as a continuing what we call now hot topic surveys, which are those similar sector-wide collaborative surveys, there was a real potential and opportunity to capture some of those survey respondents into some sort of panel. So, it's much less well developed than Steve's at the moment, but we asked people at the end of all of those surveys whether they want to take part in the audience panel. Because it's the arts and culture sector, we have the advantage that it's a nice, friendly, warm sector to work in. Lots of people have very good will towards it. So their expectations for things like remuneration are often lower than taking part in kind of more commercially driven panels. So at the moment, our recruitment is a kind of nice circular ecology where people might have taken part via an organisation in their survey, are asked to join our panel, and then that panel itself becomes available back to the sector, to those organisations. And if they've fed that panel through their surveys, they get a huge discount on any services that come through. So we don't have to, at the moment, recruit separately from that. The engagement is so high that I spend more of my time saying to people, no, honestly, there will be another survey coming soon, I swear, than it is kind of dealing with any issues. So at the moment, we're thinking about, managing that engagement, as Steve said, is really key. Lots of them ask us things like, can I get free tickets as part of this panel? Will you give me special rewards? So we're still at that early stage of working out how we sort of balance that ongoing engagement beyond just them engaging in sort of the research conversation, and how we make sure that they have enough to answer from us.
Thanks. Yeah, I mean, just picking up on that topic of engagement, it's good to hear that you've got such high engagement. But I think if we speak to a lot of companies, they'll say building a panel or a community is hard enough. Keeping it engaged, active, collaborative, and those words I used at the beginning, kind of vibrant and trying to sort of create insight that is powerful for your organizations. What kind of are the challenges, Kerry, let's start with you here, that you foresee or that you kind of can think of that get in the way of that active engagement, and some of the tips and tricks that you might think about that would help with that?
Yeah, I mean, obviously panel members suffer from the same issues that a lot of our respondents suffer from. There's survey fatigue if it's not engaging enough, if we haven't asked the question the right way for them. But I think one of the ways to battle that for me is about feeding back to people how you've used their insights, how you've used their feedback, and that sort of circular method of kind of reassuring people that actually you are listening to what they're saying. It's not just asking them stuff and then they're like, it's just another survey and it took me ages and what on earth are you going to do with it? So I think that sort of feedback mechanism is really key to keeping them engaged longer term. And the flip side of it is keeping your data clean. I mean, there's no point hanging on to people that aren't responding. So we're starting to get to a point where we're automating that much more. If people haven't responded to things, they may have shown initial interest, but obviously they're not worth hanging on to. So really refining that engagement panel, so your panel truly is engaged. We have, our panel is not nationally representative, which is a challenge. They are cultural engagers, so they skew older, whiter, wealthier than the average national population, which can provide a real issue in terms of what arts organisations, particularly public-funded arts organisations, are trying to achieve. So we have a kind of recruitment challenge from that point of view, and how we sort of balance those two things. But yeah, all these are to come and to deal with for us. But at the moment, I think it's about keeping it fresh and engaged and not being overwhelmed by the mass volume of people who just kind of want to get involved at the beginning.
Just one more point with you on that, Kerry. So because it's the arts and culture sector, there is a very specific group of people that you want to invite in. At this stage, in kind of the early stages, finding those people isn't proving that difficult, although in the proportions of some of those more diverse groups, it might become more difficult. And yet at the same time, you said, look, we've got to be really diligent with our cleaning. You know, if they're not participating, let's just kick them out and re-recruit. Yeah, I mean, there's a cost associated with that as well that you've got to factor in. So, you know, the message is great, but how do you think in practice that would actually sort of manifest itself?
I mean, part of what we're thinking about is, interestingly, most of the people who work at Indigo are marketers originally by trade. So we've come into the research industry not as research specialists initially, but come through that marketing route. So I think we always think of it as, you know, how do we make this an exciting thing to be part of? So, you know, even just very basic things like varying the types of projects they're engaged with. So as well as doing surveys, we recruit from our panel for lots of qual activity, sometimes you know, online qualitative communities that are short term, sometimes you know, focus groups, all sorts of different things. So we sort of do see them in a way as our customers. That's our B2C part of our business in terms of making it feel like an attractive, exciting thing to be part of. And it's definitely a challenge. And I think we'll continue to learn some tonight, some of the ideas people are using of making more engaging surveys, more engaging kind of insight content is really helpful when we're thinking about engaging different age groups. So I think part of it is about us marketing to them and making it an attractive thing to be part of, not just through rewards, but also just through an engaging, fun activity to be part of. Great.
Steve, let's come back to you. You very modestly said that you don't have a massive panel, but it's a pretty big panel by kind of, you know, the standards of the industry. So tell us a little bit more when it comes to engaging sort of that big an asset on your side. What are the challenges that you face at OnePoll, and what are some of the practices that you put into place?
Okay, so data quality is a big issue in market research at the moment. There's been all the cases in the US about fraudulent data. Now, it's not just about making sure you've got the right panelists in there, it's making sure that they're given questionnaires that they want to complete. It's giving them spotting if there's errors, putting all of the quality control measures in place, and that will weed out the people that don't get. And if they get weeded out, if they don't complete the surveys, they don't get the reward, and they'll stop doing it. Now, we spend a lot of time going through our database, looking at it in different ways, so that we can get the people that don't produce the quality data that we need. Now, being part of 72 Point, a lot of our surveys are used in the national press. So if you see a survey that says 66% of Brits say this, that's a good chance that's one of our surveys. So our members like to see the research that they've done appear in the national newspapers. We put a lot of it on our social media, on OnePoll, and a lot of our members follow us on social media. So our surveys go out there and they think, well, I did that. It's not just about what your incentive is. It's making sure the surveys are asking questions they're interested in. It's making sure they don't contain errors. It's making sure that they're short, that if there's a screen-hour question, it comes at the beginning. And these are things that keep people engaged. If you keep going through and screening people out 5 minutes into a survey and they get no reward for it, they'll just go. So there's lots of little things that you can put together. It's not just about the people that are there, it's making sure the people you've got are engaged, they feel part of it. And a lot of people don't just do it for the incentive, they do it to be part of something. They do it because they want their opinions to be heard. And when they see in the press a lot of our surveys, I think for the size of us, we get mentions only just behind YouGov and What Opinion, which is quite impressive for a thing of our size. So there's a lot of media mentions there that we use, and that helps to get people coming into our surveys. But again, making sure the people coming into our surveys are the right people, and that's where the data quality issues come. We have a very active help desk, and we make sure that anyone who emails in with a query gets responded to the same day. And we will take people off. We will give them reasons, whys and wherefores. We will do lots of checks at different levels of stage in the process. And we've got a 4.4 Trustpilot score, which is one of the best in the industry. So there's no one single thing that we do. It's lots of little things that I think that we do well. All the researchers are MRS trained. They make sure that the questions aren't leading. So anything that we do, we've got a very high data quality, and we're very proud of that. We want to maintain it.
Sounds like you're doing a great job there, Steve, because I think with a bigger asset, actually, for them feeling as if they're part of that community, it's harder. You know, we know that there are a lot of people out there are a member of multiple panels, and some of them are actually just in it for the incentive. But you've obviously taken great care in making sure that whilst you've got a bigger panel to engage, you want them to feel as if they're part of something. And I think, ultimately the word community is about belonging. And in our industry, we sort of flip between the word panel and community quite a lot. I mean, within our QuestionPro software, we actually call it online communities because we feel that way about a community, that you're bringing people together for the purposes of collecting data that is going to empower insights that lead to action. You need them to be engaged with what they're actually answering and why they're answering it and how you're therefore looking after them for that to be the case. And look, there are lots of different types of community. There are panels. There are also things like advisory boards where, engaging them with a newsletter about what they're taking part in might be the best incentive for them rather than a cash incentive. So these are the kind of things that, will make a difference when you're thinking in your own organizations about, if you have been thinking about building an asset or a community to do more longitudinal research with. Last question, you'll be relieved to hear. I suppose it's really sort of using your own industry expertise. If someone was in the audience today thinking about starting a community from scratch, what advice would you give them to make sure that they are starting it the right way, with the right intentions? Go on, Kerry.
Since we started ours quite recently, I think that, and we were very conscious of this actually when we started, that don't underestimate the time it takes. That exactly as you were saying, Neil, that if you're going to build a community of people and you're going to invest in those people so they give you the best results, then you can't just sort of do it in half an hour every month and just think that's all going to be fine. You've got to actually put some time aside to manage them and think about how you'll do that. Obviously, you need the right systems in place to support it. I think our experience is that, so far, we're at the stage now where we're just at the kind of pivot point from going, this is sort of very low tech, very simple. It's not quite in an Excel spreadsheet, but it sort of feels very, very simple, to going, okay, if we're going to really engage people properly, we need the right technology to do this, which is why we're having these conversations with the QuestionPro team, with Neil and the team. But I think that understanding what you're going to use it for, how often you're going to use it. We had a lot of conversations about, so how often will we talk to these people? What's their expectations? How often would they expect to get a survey? Would they expect to get a newsletter from us, an update? Will they expect to hear results? And talking to a lot of people about it. And actually, we've been able to start very much incrementally. So we've been able to kind of very, very gently sort of start to test things out on the quiet. And we've now just got to the point when we've kind of launched a suite of services called Indigo Share Discover, which uses that panel of people to then provide services to the arts and culture sector that are very easy to kind of get your head around and off the shelf. And the panel's one thing, the kind of how you use it is sort of another. So I think that's sort of, I'm so glad we didn't just rush into it and think, yeah, this is going to be great, and we'll build it, and we'll build a web page for it, and loads of people can sign up, and we'll make all these promises, because it would have completely consumed our time. So that would be my advice from my learnings over the last couple of years, definitely.
Yeah, a lot of that's exactly true. My advice would be clear what you're going to do with the panel, and make it clear for the people that join what they can expect. So what you expect from them, what they expect from you, how many surveys they're going to get. If you're offering a reward, how quickly you pay it, what you're going to do in terms of feeding back to them, newsletters, options you give them a clear indication of what they're going to get for doing a survey and how many surveys they'll get, so that they know what to expect, and make sure it's joined up thinking from, it's no good saying, you'll have a recruitment landing page, it's no good saying one thing there or putting it out to the person that puts in that direction if it's not the same, because they'll get there and they'll just disappear, they'll unsubscribe straight away. So manage expectations and make sure you're clear how much you want to use the panel. Now, we set our panel at a certain level with the intention of doing, roughly, it's 2,000 people, which is a NatRep survey, on a 30% instance rate. So that's how we set our panel size and what we're working on. And that's how we manage our recruitment and everything around that. So we have a clear idea what the panel is used for, how it's going to be used, and I think we communicate that to our members, at least to a large extent.
I think, as Steve made a brilliant point, someone gave me some great advice early on, which is that if someone's going to leave, most people leave within the first kind of 2 weeks or very, very quickly. So actually setting it up to go, how do you engage them immediately and give them that sort of reward instantly? I've joined this panel, great, I've got a survey, I'm going to complete that and start that engagement process. Don't just think, oh, you recruited, brilliant, when I need you, I'll come to you. And that's really informed how we think about that sort of early engagement process.
Steve, Kerry, thank you so much for your brilliant insights today. That's a wrap.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Some great tips in there. I think, as you kind of heard, it's more about engagement than volume, and actually the incentives have a very small part to do with the engagement. So really good insights there. Again, thank you everybody for joining us. Thank you for all of our panelists, all of our speakers. Please do enjoy the rest of our night. We've got a beautiful evening out there. Enjoy the terrace, enjoy some refreshments, and we'll be hanging out for the next few hours. So thank you.